be able to give us some insight. No, we're going to stand this side. But why don't the legislation it's implemented? Our signal, we lose our signal past that point. Peter?
Yes. Who's that? Hi, Asanda. How are you doing? Where are you? Which spot did you find in the end?
No, they just wanted to test something with us, but...
All right, okay.
We're going all right. Oh, shame. They've been trying to call me. Hi. Okay. Okay, I can't hear anything.
Hello? Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stand.
All right. Pindaga.
Nothing. They've just died completely.
All right, okay. All right, I've got to go. Thanks. Bye. Yes.
They've just suddenly died. Earlier I could hear music, but now they're gone completely.
Asanda. Okay.
No. No, that one just arrived. Backpack, hold it, backpack. Okay, now I can hear myself. I can hear some noise. Peter?
Asanda, how are you?
I'm good, my brother. Now
Good.
I hear you. Okay,
Did you
cool.
find a spot?
Yes. We are on the little green garden next to the canopies with the cameras. Where are you?
I am at my usual place, the tea garden.
Oh, actually, I'm behind you. If you turn around, I'm there. I am waving. Right there.
Oh, gee. I can't
there.
believe that this is... we a hopscotch away. And we're creating the illusion of
this
distance.
Is what you do. Okay, bro. Just a bit back. Okay, please, ne? Okay.
Hello, Petru.
We'll start here.
Yes. She got Minister Maloa. Is she there? Okay, fantastic. All right. Okay.
And we wanted to get an idea that South Africa has been expected to lead by example on climate change policy.
So which is my camera to talk to? You're my guy. You my guy, man. That's what's up. Aight. Aight. All right, welcome to day 5 of the International Convention Center Climate Change Conference. So, temperatures are certainly soaring. A very good morning and welcome to day 5 of the Conference of Parties COP17 summit that's taking place around climate change. We're here in the city of Durban, and I've got to tell you, temperatures have been soaring, and that's not just outside where we certainly can feel the temperatures, but also inside the deliberation rooms. A lot of talks have been taking place already, and the Kyoto Protocol has certainly become a hot item on the agenda. Developing nations such as Canada have started to walk away from the treaty, saying that it was a thing of the past, and that's angered quite a lot of people. We've seen Japan as well walking away, saying that they're not going to renew their commitment to this protocol, and this has angered a lot of the trading blocs that have been trying to get some kind of agreement on the table before the session ends on the 9th of December. African nations have been saying that these rich developing nations are working against them, and that they're not helping them with their efforts to fight climate change, and that they had a bigger responsibility to honor their commitments because they were the ones that polluted the continent, polluted the world in the first place. So Japan and Canada certainly not exciting people, let me put it that way, with the stance that they've taken. We're going to be covering that and a lot of other things during the course of this broadcast. We'll be looking at issues such as carbon trading. We'll be talking to the South African negotiators to find out what they're putting on the table, and also we'll be chatting a little bit about the science behind climate change and what science is doing to combat human-induced climate change issues. So all of that's still to come, but let's chat to Asanda, who's I think talking to the minister who's leading the South African delegation. Asanda?
Yes, indeed, Peter, we have found her, and once we found her, the bigger question was that Africa, and especially South Africa as host of COP17, has been under pressure to lead by example when we're talking climate change. Of course, for any country to put in good measures for that, it needs a clear climate change policy, and that's the first issue we wanted to address with our environmental minister, Edna Molewa. Does South Africa have a clear climate change policy that it's either working on or has implemented?
Quite an important question indeed. I think we should really say with pride that South Africa does have policy. We actually are already implementing that policy. Let me just state a bit background of how this policy came about. Some 6 years ago, our scientists here in South Africa and the practitioners who are in the environmental field, as well as those who were in the department back then, got together to start formulating this policy. There were two conferences at the beginning in one room, in one building. Conference on scientists and a conference of ordinary us, which really culminated into now one conference where the scientists were really confirming what the people were saying, and their piece of legislation principles were drafted from there 6 years ago. Just about 2-3 months ago, we issued out that policy, gazetted that policy publicly to South Africans. But after a long process of consultation, what I'm really trying to get at is that to illustrate that it is a policy that's owned by our society in South Africa, from scientists, academics, ordinary people in the society, as well as business. So it really covers a whole lot of other areas like mitigation aspects as well as adaptation. But it really also says that in this mitigation, we have selected sectors that need to do their best to respond to what our president said when he made a commitment to in Copenhagen to the whole world about how we are going to reduce our carbon emission. So we are spot on. What we're seeing here at these exhibitions now, this whole week, is actually a product of those. It's some of the flagship projects, 10 of them which flows from grassroots even up to the highest.
6 years in the making, finally done on the policy. If we are clear like that, what's South Africa's position then at the negotiations inside the ICC here?
Indeed, we first of all start by saying, here we are as a world, we are really taking steps, and therefore we need concrete measures, further concrete measures to go on. Policy coming from Cancun, position coming from Cancun last year. We made decisions that said, amongst others, let's have 5 things. Let's have finalization of the adaptation committee. Let's have the finalization and operationalization of the Green Climate Fund. Let's finalize what we agreed upon last year, MRV, that's the transparency measures, the MRV ICA issues, the forestation issues, reforestation programs. Those decisions, package of them that were taken in Cancun as South Africa, we're saying, yes, let's take those forward. Let's agree that this must be operationalized here in Durban, because the whole year long we've been working on them. Second set of things, is that we know that Kyoto Protocol second commitment thereof is coming to an end next year. We need to do something about that Kyoto Protocol here in Durban, and therefore it's necessary to really say, as parties, South Africa is saying, let's get to the second commitment period. But not only that, look at the convention, because there are those who are scribing under the convention. So the two-track system must actually also continue. But we must also clarify in the same vein, because all these are linked. In the same vein, we must clarify the legal form and begin the discussions on the legal form here in South Africa. That's our mandate. Thirdly, adaptation framework has now, a committee has been completed. We now need to act and also ensure that adaptation is not just fragmented as it is right now in the text, but those gaps that are there must be closed, and we must get on with adaptation work.
When you talk about fragmentation, it also talks to an issue, a concern that was raised earlier, that Africa as a continent was battling to speak with one voice coming to this conference. Has Africa managed to put its position together to speak with one voice at this conference?
I'm one of those who have been with our minister from Mali at the helm of coordinating Africa. And I can attest to the fact that we have really consolidated our position. We have even gone up to the highest level of our leaders on the continent. The summit of our presidents, which sat in Equatorial Guinea this year, discussed our mandate and blessed that mandate. It gave what we call CAHOSC, a mandate. CAHOSC is a coordinating committee on climate change, which is led by Prime Minister Meles and other 10 presidents. South Africa is one of those, and I attended the recent meeting, which sat 2 weeks ago, to consolidate our final, now no longer position, because the position was agreed to in the president's meeting, in our meeting of all ministers of Africa. 48 of them attended and agreed to that. So it's a consolidated position. We do believe that maybe here and there are views that are different, but on the mandate that I'm talking about, we speak with one voice.
Before I let you go back into the conference, lastly, you mentioned the issue of the Green Fund. Some of the developing nations have raised concerns that they're the worst affected by climate change, and they were kind of pushing that the more developed and industrialized nations should contribute more to help them mitigate against the effects of climate change. How far is that discussion going?
You see, the good thing about the processes we are in is that we work within the principles. There's a principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and capabilities. That's it. So we need to stick to that principle. It does say who has got to do what. We also have to have a discussion on shared responsibilities. Naturally, we have to have the developed countries really coming on board, not only coming on board financially, but also coming on board in terms of cutting their carbon emissions as well, really taking this leadership that we need.
We're finalizing the first week. Are we going in a positive direction, or how are we doing in the negotiations?
It is Thursday today. The technical people who are negotiators are still on, and we do believe that by Friday, Saturday, thereabouts, they would have some kind of direction as to how things are unfolding.
Minister, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us. That's the Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa, saying she's confident that we will be moving in a positive direction at the climate change conference right here at the ICC. Let's go back to Peter. Are you done? I think I'm done. Thanks. Thank you. Can you hear who? Yes, I can hear you. I don't need you, so I don't know why I should still hear you.
Welcome back. We continue with our live coverage from the Durban International Convention Centre, the Albert Luthuli International Convention Centre, where the climate change talks are taking place. COP17, that's a conference of parties. 194 nations are coming to the table to try and sort out a deal. Kyoto Protocol's at the forefront of that. Should it get renewed? Should a new one be instigated? What are the different parties saying? Well, they're different blocks with different views, and on the sidelines we're seeing many NGOs, non-governmental organizations, civil society groups and pressure groups also putting pressure to bear on the leaders to come up with some kind of a deal. But a little bit earlier on, you heard Minister Molewa talk about adaptation and adaptation strategies and policies. Well, one way that climate change challenges can be faced is through science. And joining me now is the Minister of Science and Technology in South Africa, Naledi Pandor, to tell us what her ministry is doing. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
All right, so what can and what is science and technology in South Africa doing to step up to this challenge of combating climate change?
Well, one of the things that we have done in South Africa is invest in establishing centers of excellence to enhance our research activity with respect to developing a range of strategies that would respond to climate change. So you have access as a center of excellence on climate change research. And then, of course, institutions like the CSIR and others. We have developed the electric car, so you are changing and responding to the environment that is being impacted upon by fossil fuels. So we're seeing electric cars, hybrid models of cars, and we have the South African jewel. You also are looking at agricultural strategies. You're looking at indigenous knowledge and how it can be modernized and supported in order to have greater application than the specific community that might use an environmentally friendly method of engaging in agricultural activity. We all know one of the impacts of climate change is, of course, increasing drought, less rain, and thus inadequate availability of water. What water sources have traditional communities used previously? Do we have the ability to create drought-resistant seeds, or seeds that yield greater than we might be yielding with our current practices? All of this would be investigated by your research councils, your scientists, and would then feed in to strategies that either seek to adapt or that mitigate the impact of climate change. Of course, First Prime, which Minister Molewa and team are negotiating, is to change the practices of the polluters, because really you want to ensure that all the negative impact is substantially reduced. But science has a contribution to it.
Well, you mentioned the Jewel and the little electric car. We hope that you would be driving up on that car. Is it ready, and when can we start to see, do you think? How far into the future before most people are driving electric cars?
Well, we would like South Africa to get into the habit of taking the risk of investing in innovation. We worked on developing an electric car. We've successfully got a battery that can take us over 300 kilometers. We have a beautiful car. It's now for industry to take up the opportunity and produce the car. So we've essentially partnered now with the Department of Trade and Industry as well as the Industrial Development Corporation to see whether they'll make the funds available for a plant to be established, for the car to be produced in large numbers, and for South Africans to begin to drive an electric vehicle. It will be much, much cheaper and more environmentally friendly than any car we have at the moment. So we hope South Africans would take up, and perhaps government departments and ministers should be the first.
All right, now another initiative that you have is this Young Southern Scientists Summer School. I guess looking at the future with this project.
We're really thrilled that we've been able to put some funding aside in order to start a Southern summer school for students initially from Southern Africa. I hope in the future it will be an Africa-wide program. We're partnering with the IASA, which is an International Institute of Applied Sciences, because it's done absolutely well at training emerging young scientists in integrating a multidisciplinary approach into their research work. And this is what we want African scholars to get access to. So I'm really thrilled that December 2013, the first cohort of 50 young people will be part of the first Southern Summer School.
Minister, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for your time. Good luck with the summer school and the car. I want to get one.
Definitely. Let's discuss that.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, so that was the Minister of Science and Technology, Naledi Pandor, speaking to us there about some of the initiatives that the Ministry of Science and Technology is undertaking to do its bit in mitigating human-induced climate change effects. Well, you know, there are so many different ways to deal with the challenges that we're facing around climate change, and initiatives and programs global. One that's been talked about quite a bit is carbon trading. And to tell us a little bit more about what that is and whether it's a good or a bad thing, in fact, I spoke to him a little bit earlier and he was saying that it's one of the best things that we've got at the moment. Let's find out from Kevin James, who's with Global Carbon Exchange. Kevin, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Pleasure, Peter.
All right. In a nutshell, explain to us carbon trading. What is it about and what does it do?
Well, there are many aspects to that, Peter. I mean, the whole negotiations here at COP17 is central to the future of carbon trading, and Kyoto Protocol underpins carbon trading. The one aspect around carbon trading that has been really interesting and really beneficial for the developing countries that have embraced it is the whole clean development mechanism. South Africa is a signatory to the Kyoto Protocol at this stage and are able to benefit from the clean development mechanism. At this stage, they've got about 20 projects or so that have been registered. And what this really means is it's another alternative source of funding. You know, and for the last 4 years, since 2008, or the first commitment period that we've been through, you know, we've been able to identify projects and programs that have the ability to reduce CO2 emissions, so energy efficiency, renewable energy, reforestation, afforestation, all those type of things that have the ultimate objective of addressing this issue of global warming. And we are able to register those as a project under the CDM and get the developed world, the richer countries, to buy those carbon credits to offset their carbon footprint of their activities in Europe and the United States and all that. So it's effectively another source of financing. And, you know, while this is a system that's dominated by capitalism and by money, there are really no other alternatives and to addressing it. And my only hope is that they find a similar kind of instrument to deal with climate change adaptation, because in Africa that is a bigger problem. But
all right, but isn't this though kind of dictating the way developing nations will progress? Because we're basically being told if you want to get money, you have to develop this kind of technology.
No, I don't believe so. I think that all the technologies we're talking about are beneficial. They address the sustainability issues, the issues of waste management, the issues of renewable resources and the depletion of non-renewable resources. So it's all technologies that are beneficial, and that transfer of technologies from the developed world to countries like ourselves is hugely beneficial, and I don't see any negatives to it. I think it's the right path for development, for sustainable development, and to set us on a path for sustainable agriculture and rural development as well. So no, I think it's absolutely the right thing, where we can really capitalize on the experience and the technologies from these developed nations, as well as get funding to support it.
These developing nations then, are they not getting a get out of jail free card? Because you're talking about offsetting, but basically what you're saying is as long as we've got enough money, we can pay for the pollution that we're creating. Why don't they just stop polluting?
Yes, well, that's not going to happen overnight, you know, and this, let's be very, very realistic here. You know, it's only in the last 10, 15 years that these companies have almost been demonized for doing the wrong thing. Before that, it was absolutely acceptable. So in order to effect change, you know, you need some kind of instrument that can put a price on what the problem is. Just like we had the acid rain problem, just like we had, you know, those were sorted out through these type of mechanisms. Your question around whether it gives a license to further pollute in the developed world, well, that may be the case, but we've got to remember that the carbon credit is a volatile commodity, just like any other commodity, and companies on an annual basis have to make a decision. Do they want to reduce their CO2 emissions, or do they want to take out their checkbooks and buy carbon credits? They may want to do that, but in 1 year the carbon price may go from 13 euros a ton to 25 euros a ton. In certain businesses it may become prohibitive for them to continue business. So it's something that some companies may want to take a position on, and sometimes maybe they just want to go and reduce.
So bottom line, it's a good model at the moment.
It's all we've got at the moment, and the continuation of the Kyoto Protocol is critical to ensure that it continues. I'm not saying it's the perfect model, but it's better than nothing.
Kevin James, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, so there you have it, carbon trading. Think of it what you will, but it certainly is a viable project at the moment. It's helping developing nations develop new technologies that are paid by developed nations as they offset their carbon footprints. All right, so that's what we've been talking about so far this morning, science and technology, what South Africa's doing and hoping to negotiate, and also carbon trading. So a lot more still to come right here from the Durban International Convention Centre. Stay with us for that.
Well, we're tend to staff. You know, we don't have a huge budget.
Okay, stand by. And it's a very warm welcome back. We're at the Albert Luthuli International Convention Centre, and this is your live broadcast coming to you every single day from 10 to 10, where we cover the day's events and talk to key voices, players that are milling around this venue that have descended on Durban to talk about climate change and what we can do to mitigate some of the, particularly the human-induced aspects of it. Now, all over the world, you're finding that a lot of countries, a lot of organizations are still developing, not even winding down, but developing fossil fuel-oriented energy sources. South Africa, unfortunately, is one of those countries. We're building a coal fire plant at the moment, and that's being brought into question by many organizations. And of course, they've got to be financed by somebody. And to tell us a little bit more about why this is a concern and why some banks are continuing to do this, I'm now joined by Heffa Schulking, who's from Oegewald, to tell us more about the bankrolling of these. Thank you for joining us on the program. Welcome.
Well, the research we just finished looks at financing for the coal sector since 2005, the year the Kyoto Protocol came into force. And we picked coal financing because coal is the most important single source of CO2 emissions on the planet. And what we found is, unfortunately, that coal financing since 2005, it's doubled. Yeah, I mean, the development is all in the wrong direction if we're serious about staying below a 2 degrees rise in average global temperature.
Why is that happening, do you think?
Well, several reasons. I mean, one of them is that governments still think in the old model, and many of the utilities building new coal-fired power plants are state utilities. And so they think, oh, big coal, nuclear. They haven't woken up to the fact that there are other energy sources which are less costly in lots of ways, in any case to society, and that are environmentally a lot more friendly and, are the future. And the other reason, though, is that, utilities who want to go forward with coal-fired power plants, they can still find the money, no problem, because there are these banks here who are absolutely willing to finance that. And the research was interesting in the sense that banks, they don't allow you to look into their portfolio. It's like they do publish figures on their support for renewable energy, because
okay, but let me ask you this. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, a bank is there to make money for its shareholders, and what you're asking them to do is actually to discriminate against some of its clients.
Well, actually, what I'm asking them to do is to care about the climate and the planet. But in a way, I'm asking them also to do solid business, because if you think about the climate negotiations, maybe it won't happen in Durban, but at some point we'll have regulation, and because the impacts of climate change will just become more and more noticeable. And investments the banks are making today in coal-fired power plants, I mean, these are tomorrow's emissions, right? I mean, and the assumption of the bank's financing is this coal-fired power plant, it's going to be operating the next 40, 50 years. Well, maybe that won't happen, in a sense. If the banks really want to do solid business, then they also need to be aware that coal is a risky business.
All right, let me ask you another question. I mean, I'm thinking about my country. I'm here in South Africa, and we need quick solutions. And a lot of these green solutions are long-term, but we're running out of power. In fact, we've run out of power. And the coal route actually is probably the quickest solution to a huge problem. What do we do?
Yeah, well, I'd actually disagree with that. You can build, wind power can go online much more quickly than a big coal-fired power plant, especially if you're looking at the new ones planned in South Africa, Medupi and Kozila. I mean, these are 4,500 megawatts each, which is about 6 times as big as an average coal-fired power plant in Germany. And you're going to have to develop 40 new coal mines just to feed these giant things. And actually, renewable energy is much more flexible, is much more able to deliver to people. Because, see, this is the thing. Kozila and Medupi, they're not going to deliver electricity to the poor. Sure. They're going to deliver subsidized electricity to the big companies who have their special pricing agreements since, apartheid times. And for the poor, the prices are rising amazingly. And you're going to have, I think just since Medupi and Kozila have been announced, electricity prices have gone up over 130%.
Okay,
so you're going to have poor people going offline. You're actually having de-electrification for parts of the population.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hefa, for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts with us. I think certainly food for thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so there you have it, a view that these banks actually should consider the way they finance a lot of these operations, whether they are green friendly or not, and that perhaps they should refrain from doing that. That's something for you to make up your mind on yourself. All right, let's catch up with another one of our field reporters, and this time we're going to Nomawetu. I think she's at the Green Hub.
Good morning, Peter. Indeed, we are at the Green Hub, which is at the Blue Lagoon Beach. I must say, from where we're standing, we're actually overlooking the Umgeni River. It's from outside for once in a while. And actually, we'll talk more about the Green Hub and what it aims to do a little bit later, because right now we are at My Green Home exhibition. And to tell us more what this My Green Home exhibition is, we are joined by Pierre Basson from Green Home. Good morning, Pierre, and thank you so much for joining us. Just tell us, why is this exhibition called My Green Home?
Good morning. The brief that we got for this is to show off a sustainable house, to show off technologies that are available on everyday appliances, renewable energy power system, solar water heating, heat pumps. So we've tried to put together a holistic view of what we can do in our homes to make it more energy efficient. We've included recycled furniture.
You say you've furnished this whole house using green material. Just explain some of them to us.
Yes, well, if you look at the kitchen, we've included a new technology in terms of cooking. We've got an induction hob, which uses a lot less energy than your standard induction heating. We've got energy efficiency appliances like dishwashers, fridge, refrigerators, freezers, and all of this is powered by a renewable energy power system that can harness energy from solar photovoltaic panels and wind turbines, for instance.
We can stand here and discuss this until tomorrow. It's all good and well to say, let's go green. But for someone to actually have a house that has actually gone green, isn't that just a tad bit expensive than building a normal house?
Yeah, I think as with most new technologies and commodities on the market, new technologies, when they appear on the market for the first time, they normally are a little bit overpriced. But as soon as people start buying into it, the prices come down rapidly, especially on the renewable side of things. The prices have come down considerably over the last couple of years, making it very viable for the homeowner to install a renewable plant to take over certain sections of the load of the house, to assist with energy generation.
All right, we've introduced these houses. Have we seen people actually being interested in actually having greenhouses?
Yes, there's been a huge call for it, especially on the energy efficiency. So in terms of appliances, light fittings, energy efficiency, lamp holders, that type of technology. In terms of the building structure that we have here is a new technology in terms of the building material that was used. It's called a SIPS panel, and thermal properties on it is very, very good.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, that was Pierre Basson. He is from the Green Home, telling us more about this greenhouse here and encouraging people to actually construct homes that are eco-friendly. Well, that's all we have down here at the Green Hub. We will be back a little bit later. We will show you a bit of what this place looks like. For now, we go to an ad break. We're back after this.
Welcome back to the special broadcast of the COP17 Climate Change Conference. Now, the big thing about conferences, they're always about people in suits, grown-up people. But at this conference, we've managed to find young people who seem to understand what climate change is all about. And they've been gathered from different provinces of the country. And we want to hear how it affects their communities. Which province do you come from?
Good day, everyone. I'm from the Northern Cape in Kimberley.
How does climate change affect? I know it's a very dry province. How does climate change affect your province, though?
It's increasing poverty in crime, because at times when people they don't get what they want because of climate, they tend to go and break in other companies, just to get what they want. And there are small farms now, they're not producing. There's no harvesting again there in Northern Cape.
That's the view from the Northern Cape, that the drought affects their lives in a way that increases poverty and crime. Which province are you from, and how does climate change affect your people?
Good day, everyone. I'm from Northwest in Swartland. Climate change affect my province in cases like poverty, because we used to have fruits and vegetables just growing themselves, but because of climate change, the land is dry.
Dry land in your province. Where are you from? I see you from Limpopo. Yes. How does climate change affect Limpopo?
Limpopo is a very hot province, and so the climate change, the heat is increasing there, and a lot of our communities are based on farming. So when there is drought, they can't really harvest anything, and it's also very difficult for us to concentrate in class with this high temperatures. That's how it affects us. Yeah.
Okay, this one is probably the youngest here. I don't know how she made it here. How old are you?
I'm 13 years old.
13 years old, and you're from the Eastern Cape. Yes. How does global warming affect the Eastern Cape?
Global warming is really affecting us in cases of poverty. Also, there's some lots of floods. When it rains, it rains strongly, and it is really affecting us. We even try to tell our community about climate change, but they do not understand. They take us as very young. They do not understand that young minds create ideas.
That's the youngest kid I've seen here at 13 years old, and she's managed to grasp what climate change is all about. I see you're from Mpumalanga. How does it affect your province?
Well, I'm from Mpumalanga, and we're known for our very extensive wildlife and parks, and most of our communities are actually reliant on that. So climate change, it takes away the beauty of nature in our provinces. People can no longer have farms. People can never have wildlife and parks. So it has that effect on our communities. And mostly it's mainly attributed to by the mines in our communities. So the skies are no longer blue in our communities. People are suffering from lung diseases and cancer. So that's the sad effects of climate change in our communities.
That's a youngster from Mpumalanga, an area that he says the skies are no longer blue and the wildlife is affected by climate change. And the issues these young people have raised here are some of the core issues that are being debated inside the conference inside here at the ICC. Peter, how are you doing there?
I'm still pretty warm, I've got to tell you, and whilst the sun is out, actually your young guest there definitely had a point. The skies are not blue today, a little bit grey and overcast, but nevertheless we soldier on as we do, because these are very important talks that we're involved in. We were talking about the Conference of Parties, COP17, the delegates that are sitting inside these buildings discussing climatic changes and looking for solutions. Well, businesses also have to grapple with this. There was a time when a guy opened his shop and all he did was sell his goods, count his money at the end of the day, and maybe the auditors came in to check. But times have certainly changed. Financial reporting has changed. There's a whole section now on dealing on sustainability and green issues. And businesses have had to change the way that they run their businesses. And some might even think, this is such a drag. But there's a guy who says that, there may be some opportunities there. And to unlock those opportunities for us, let's talk to Dwayne Newman, who's with Deloitte Sustainability and Climate Change Services. Thank you for joining us on the program. Welcome.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
All right, so companies certainly do have challenges around carbon footprinting. Tell us a little bit about those challenges and how perhaps they can convert them into opportunities.
Yeah, I think most companies really start on that journey around measuring their carbon footprints in case it's the right thing to do, maybe driven by the sustainability manager. And they start on that journey and they realize, it's a bit harder than we thought. Can't find the data, and they they want it assured by audit firms. We can't assure it. But then they start to realize, saying, there's maybe more to this than just collecting information. So we've been talking to them around saying, maybe take it out of the realm of just a sustainability manager and make it a strategic initiative. So things with things like King 3, boards are asking, saying, well, what should we be doing about sustainability and climate change? How does it impact the business? Are there business opportunities? Is there something we effectively potentially blindsided by because we think it's just a green issue and a save the planet issue? And we're saying this is now becoming mainstream, and if you don't understand what's happening at places like COP17, happening at national level and in other countries, you could be missing an opportunity and potentially have a competitive disadvantage if you don't wake up to all these trends.
Right. Before we talk about the opportunities specifically, I guess what we're saying is that a lot of people who are building factories now, even before they put one brick down, kind of need to think about design, layout, flows and things like that to take into cognizance these green issues.
Yeah, dead right. So you think, say, if you're building a new building today, it's all about, how green is the building? Because you're building the building today and potentially you have to rent it out over the next 20 or 30 years. So if you want to rent your building out in 10 years' time, so maybe these green issues might not be relevant for you to rent it out today because there's not a huge demand specifically in South Africa, but in 10 years' time, If you don't do it, when you build that new building, you won't be able to rent it out. Same with factories. The prices of electricity has gone up. So when you're designing that new factory of yours, you need to think about very carefully around how can we make this as energy efficient as possible. And that's where government comes in. They're trying to obviously help companies, saying, well, this is an issue, trying to change their behavior. And they even they've also got incentives in place.
And is this kind of where we start to talk about the opportunities? Let's chat a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think what we've been seeing is a lot of companies then sit down and think, okay, well, I'm going to potentially get impacted by my competitors, okay? And my customers are asking questions of me, like, what's my carbon footprint? Say Walmart's entry into South Africa, and they're obviously quite aggressive on sustainability and green issues. So if you want to supply into those supply chains, if you don't change your business and have a lower energy usage, potentially you could lose contracts. Or your competitors could get them. So you have to be thinking very smartly on how this impacts the future strategy of your business.
And I would imagine further afield, abroad, where, supply chains, people are talking more green, that you really need to be cognizant if you're exporting to Europe.
No, dead right. And, so it's understanding your market, so whether it's South Africa, Europe, China, America. And that's why these developments here, I think, are really important to understand what's the direction of what are companies' national policies on these issues. Because if you don't understand that complex landscape, and it is complex, I mean, you've been around here, sometimes quite difficult to unpack it, the jargon, all the acronyms that float around. But I think it's really important to sort of keep on top of it and then sort of look for the opportunities for your specific business.
Right. It sounds like lots of hard work initially, but certainly worth the effort. Dwayne, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Okay, pleasure.
All right, so there you have it. If you have a business, it's something you really need to think about and employ, because there are opportunities. You're going to miss out, actually, if you don't join the bandwagon and find ways to implement it in your own businesses. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, lots more from COP17 here in Durban.
For me.
Welcome back to the ICC. We're at the Albert Luthuli International Convention Centre, and we've been unpacking a number of issues around climate change talks that are taking place here. 194 nations, as I keep saying, are here. So the whole world is practically converged here in Durban. And will we get an agreement at the end of this? You'll have to keep watching every single day as we keep you updated on those issues. Now, Lake Chad was once one of Africa's largest freshwater lakes, and since 1960, unfortunately, the lake has shrunk in size by 95%. That's a staggering statistic. As a result of malnutrition is on the rise in the region across Chad, where it already contributes to 1/3 of the deaths, particularly amongst children and infants under 5. Scientists have been warning that if nothing is done, Lake Chad could disappear in the next 20 years, which is frightening and remarkable statistics. And to tell us a little bit more about that, I'm now joined, sir. You're from Chad, and if you could just tell us who you are and what your designation is.
Yeah, I'm Engineer Sanusi Imran Abdullahi, the Executive Secretary of the Lake Chad Basin Commission.
All right. This situation with Lake Chad is certainly urgent.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for some time. Have you been doing anything in that time to try and reverse that? Because in 20 years, you won't have a lake.
Yeah, in fact, we're trying with the little resources we have as a sub-region. This is why we are participating actively in this COP17 to tell the world that they have to come in. They have to come in to save the Lake Chad. Not for the sub-region, but for the world.
What would you like them to do?
Several things. But of course, we get a few at a time. We want the political will from all governments to try to see that they actively participate in this issue of the world climate discussions, and where possible give ground to support the arguments of Africa. And of course, as a Lake Chad Basin Commission, we would want those who have the expertise and the resources to give us support, either in terms of capacity building or in terms of materials that will help us to mitigate the situation in the Lake Chad.
Does Chad have a plan in place? You talk about assistance, but do you have a plan? Because the way we're talking at the moment is that you're looking for expertise, you're looking for help, but I'm not really hearing what your plan is.
Yeah, let me correct you. The issue is not Chad. Yeah. It's Lake Chad Basin Commission. Yeah, because the Lake Chad is bordering 6 countries.
Sure.
So it's not Chad, it's Lake Chad. We have quite a number of plans, programs and plans in place. Especially the major one we have is the project that we are trying to transfer water from the Congo to Lake Chad. It's a huge program. It's probably beyond the capacity of the sub-region to finance. Okay. But it's going to be a very huge program and a huge solution to the problem of the drying of the Lake Chad.
All right. Well, we certainly wish you luck with your endeavour. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, okay, so that's the situation in Lake Chad, a lake that might disappear within the next 20 years. All right, we're going to continue, and we now go to, I think, Nomawetu, who's at the Green Hub. Nomawetu?
Good morning, Peter, and welcome back to the Green Hub. As I said earlier, I was bragging about how beautiful the weather is out here. And just behind me, you can see the Umgeni River. Well, joining me now to tell us more about what the Green Hub is Gary Cullen from the Durban Green Corridor. Gary, a very beautiful space down here. What is the Green Hub all about?
Green Hub is an environmental education building. It's a green technology building, so it's showcasing green building technology. It's also a vehicle through which we provide education to school groups and the public. And then it's the trail centre for the Durban Green Corridor, which begins here and goes all the way up the valley. And that Durban Green Corridor is really an adventure sport and ecotourism development project through which we are trying to promote job creation and local economic development in the Umgeni Valley.
When you speak about education when it comes to climate change, what are some of the things that you have out here?
Well, we've got a green home installation, and that's really showing people from the person living in a corrugated iron shack to an upmarket home, different things that you can do to conserve water and energy. So that's the first level. Then beyond that, we've just got an entertainment space, food, craft markets, and all sorts of other outdoor entertainment. So what we're doing is also just promoting the concept of outdoor recreation in nature, and I think that's what we're trying to get through at this location.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, that was Gary Cullen. He is in charge of the Green Hub, a very beautiful space indeed out here. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. With that, it's back to you, Peter, in the studio.
Thank you very much, Nomawetu. I'm going to tell you, I've got a lovely studio here, but that's it from us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Join us again tomorrow at the same time, 10 to 10 on SABC3.